his Marine buddy. I forgot his name on the movie, but Amari Hardwick, the guy who plays Ghost and Power. He plays Lincoln's best friend on the movie. And as they're watching, the mother.
Metro Boomin, want some more, nigga.
Welcome back to 4th Flow ENT TV. Special guest C Jones the Goof in here with me.
What up?
What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Before we get into this video, take a few seconds, scroll down, press that thumbs up like button. Feel free to leave a comment throughout the duration of this video. Share it with family and friends. Most importantly, y'all hit that red subscribe button over to the right for me. I greatly appreciate it. And this is another episode, the second official episode of Real Raw Reviews. As y'all can see, I got the princess with me. She's chilling. On this episode, y'all know I kind of pick certain movies based on the sensitivity and the realness of the movie and the authenticity. And so the first movie I did in episode 1 a few months ago was Queen and Slim, a movie that I really enjoyed. And so today in this episode, I will be reviewing a movie that recently came out maybe about 3 weeks ago, entitled American Skin. If I'm not mistaken, it's a Spike Lee film. I watched it twice. I took notes both times I watched it. I'm kind of just going to skim through my notes, share with y'all what I kind of documented while watching the movie. A warning, there will be spoilers throughout this entire video, so if you haven't seen it, please hold off on watching this video until you actually go watch the movie. If you have seen it, I appreciate y'all for coming to my channel to check out my review. The movie opens on July 3rd, 2017, according to the officer's dash cam. The movie opens with 2 officers pulling over an African-American man and his son. The dad name, if I'm not mistaken, in the movie, Lincoln Jefferson. I think they made a reference throughout the movie about the 2 names, or I think I was watching it and something about the 2 names hit my mind, but basically he has Abraham Lincoln's last name is his first name, and Thomas Jefferson's last name is his last name. So it's kind of just a neat name that the dad had in the movie. I'm wondering if maybe it has any symbolism, if maybe that's an Easter egg related to something those presidents did, maybe towards slavery or something of that nature. So just knowing Spike Lee, I'm pretty sure it was a reason as to why the dad's name was Lincoln Jefferson. Literally his 2 names are 2 names of famous presidents. But his son's name is KJ. And so basically the movie opens, the officers pull over Lincoln and his son KJ. The officers ask to see insurance. The dad gives them insurance. The insurance is expired. The dad states that they might be the wrong car. So at that point, the officer asks them to step out of the car, and the son begins to pull out a phone and record. And then the movie shows the officer that was on the passenger side with the son. They get into a quick little argument as he's telling the son to get out the car, and then the scene kind of cuts there and goes to present time. And so I'm not gonna get too much into the details of the movie. Like I say, if y'all seen it, y'all know it's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. I'm really just gonna kind of skim through my notes real quick. There was a scene in the movie where the dad said to his son KJ that those laws weren't made for us in mind. It was a conversation. He walked in on his son on a Skype with one of his friends, and they were talking about some of their political homework, if I'm not mistaken. And the son kept referencing that, you know, according to the law, you can defend yourself in certain circumstances, even if you're defending yourself from the police legally. But the dad overhears the conversation and comes in and tell him that those laws weren't made with us in mind. Us meaning people of color, minorities. And so I agree with the dad. I feel that there are a lot of, it's facts, there are a lot of constitutional laws, there are a lot of laws, historical laws, that are representative of some of the times and some of the things that were going on during the time the laws were made, and they haven't been adequately reformed to adapt to today's time, where it's supposedly equal opportunity. Supposedly. That scene stood out to me. Y'all let me know if y'all seen the movie, how y'all felt about that scene, because the son goes on to say, okay, well, I defend myself, you know, he's an adolescent, he's just talking from just testosterone maybe, but she has a point. But the dad says that in so many words, he tells his son KJ to be submissive to an officer, be respectful, and do whatever they tell you to do so that you can make it back home safely. Whether they're disrespecting you, they're being rude school, whatever the case may be, you still remain respectful and cautious so that you can make it back home safely. I have mixed feelings about that because as a father of a son and a daughter, I can see myself telling them to, yes, be respectful. Of course, be respectful, do what they say in a sense, but I also would want my kids to be able to recognize hostility or bad vibes in an officer and not become hostile or aggressive, but adjust accordingly. Not stoop to the level, not get disrespectful, but think, call, even police if you have to. Of course, worst case scenario, Lord forbid, always protect yourself, defend your life. But that's just a difficult conversation. If y'all have seen the movie and you are a parent, comment in the comment section, how do you feel about the two sides of that coin? Be respectful on one end. At the other end, you still teach your kids dignity and self-respect and that every man is equal to the next and that people shouldn't be treated the same way. So it's just a sensitive topic, and I'd love to hear what you all have to say in the comment section. The dad was a custodian. That stood out to me because he was a Marine veteran, and you would think that with him being a Marine veteran, America would have so many more opportunities and different things like that, but he was a custodian by choice. He worked at a school as a janitor, but by working at the school, some type of way his son was eligible to go to either that school that the dad worked at or to a private school nearby, something like that. I don't know the exact specifics, but by him working as a janitor in that time, his son was eligible to go to that majority white-based school because the son mentioned in one of the scenes that he was like one of the only few black kids at his school, which I salute that for the dad to be working as a custodian, a Marine veteran, and to still be humble and still do what you have to do to make a way for your child and your children. I salute that. I salute that. So fast forward, the movie reveals that the officer on the passenger side shot the boy, the son, KJ. He shot him and killed him. Actually shot him in the back. KJ got scared with all the hollering and stuff that was going on. You have to keep in mind he's a teenage boy. So he just took out running, and the officer shot him in his back, killed him. And so the dad, Mr. Lincoln, he waited a year and a half before they even had court for it, they had trial for it, which was surprising because a lot of times in highly publicized cases, you see a expeditious process on the court and the trial. But the dad waited a year and a half, which it goes both ways. The longer, the more evidence that can be collected. So he waited a year and a half before court, and then he goes to court, and the judge finds the officers innocent, and tell them to return to work in so many words, and it's an uproar. The city, the African Americans, the minorities, they uproar, they riot the day that the verdict is given, and the officers are set free and told to return to work. The officer that killed the son, KJ, I think his name was Michael Randall. There's a scene in the movie where there's a young guy arguing versus an older cop. It's a young black guy. He comes out with some of the other inmates that the father brought out as the jury, and one of the young guys, young inmates, is arguing with one of the old officers, and it was symbolic to me because it was more so youth versus traditional. Traditional has its ways and its morals and its beliefs, and the youth have a different way of doing things. That's not to say either side is right or wrong. It's just a disconnect there, and more people have to find that bridge and be able to be objective and step into other people's worlds, because that's the only way anything's ever going to really work, in my opinion. And so the officer comes by and he's asking KJ's mom to issue a call for peace on the news so that the people can stop rioting. And I don't know how I felt about that, because it's like the officers came to her and really needed her help because people were destroying the city. But at the same time, it's a lot of situations worldwide and across the country where people call police, and based on their ethnicity, their race, their demographics, their location, it determines the response time of those officers. And so I have mixed feelings about the scene on the movie where the officers come and needed help. You want this mother to go on the news and tell everybody to be peaceful and to not riot, but were the cops on the news fighting for justice against their fellow officers who did this crime? Because I know not every single officer on their department agreed with this unjustified killing. So none of the officers who felt some type of way about it went to the news and called for justice on their fellow co-workers. So it works a lot of different ways. It's a lot of different perspectives. So the mother agrees to call for peace. She gets on the news, asks everybody to stop with the rioting. And as Lincoln is watching it, he's with his good friend, his Marine buddy. I forgot his name on the movie, but Amari Hardwick, the guy who plays Ghost in Power Howard. He plays Lincoln's best friend on the movie. And as they're watching the mother issue a statement for peace on the news, he says that it's strategic. That if people see a child's mother on the news and see that she's calling for peace and isn't 38 hot about her son's death, subconsciously it'll make the masses not care. And I understood what Ghost was saying. I'm saying Ghost for the purposes of this movie, but so y'all know what I'm talking about. But mixed feelings about that too. Lord forbid if something happened to me, yes, I would want my family and friends to call for peace if the city started acting crazy and tearing up things that had nothing to do with my deceased. But at the same time, I wouldn't want my family and friends to be quiet, because if they be quiet, my name will die. So it's just mixed feelings. Like I say, this will be a great video for y'all to interact and really get in the comment section and share your thoughts and opinions with me. Fast forward, the dad is arguing with the cop in the police department, and you know, he brings the inmates out, he puts the cop on trial, his own self-made trial, and his fellow officers are upset and they scream out, you know, they had court about this already, they were found not guilty. And the dad states that they had court for the officer, not for my son. And I definitely agree with that. That was a powerful statement. I feel like that verdict was given based on that officer and the fact that he's a boy in the blue. He's a government official. He's a public servant. I feel like that trial was for him. It wasn't for the justice of an unarmed, innocent man being shot in their back. And so I definitely agree with the dad with their statement, and I feel like that was a very powerful statement. I'm almost through, okay? Okay. There's another point in the movie where the dad and the cop are arguing, and the cop screams out that they weren't taught to de-escalate once they draw their weapon. I think I heard that right. If y'all have seen the movie and I'm wrong, correct me in the comment section. But he said that once he drew his weapon on his son, the dad asked him, why not just put your weapon back down once you see he didn't have a gun and he didn't have a weapon on him. And the officer says, we weren't taught to de-escalate after our weapon is drawn. If that's really what he said and I heard that the right way, I think that's total BS. I've never heard of nothing like that. If that's the case, if an officer pulls up to the scene and a person is mentally ill and they're hysteric, and the officer draws his gun, and then a family member runs out the house, oh no, he hasn't had his medicine yet, gives him the medicine, he pops the medicine right now, shakes back to a normal thinking regular human being, the officer still supposed to keep his gun drawn? Like, and that's just a hypothetical off the top of the head. So that didn't make sense to me when the officer said that. So I may have heard that wrong. Y'all let me know in the comment section. The officer says the courts have a reason for why they do what they do, and the dad rebuttals and says, how has that worked for us? Us meaning African Americans, minorities. Yes, the court system has a way they do things. Yes, they have systematic biases. Yes, they have just different underlying injustices within, but the officer says that as if that's an okay thing. Oh, the courts have a way they do things. Okay, like that doesn't cut it. That's like saying, oh, angry people have a way they do things, so let everybody get off with murder. Everybody has to hold themselves accountable. The court system has to hold itself accountable. History has to hold itself accountable. Today has to hold itself accountable. Like, the criminal justice system definitely needs reform. Definitely needs reform. And I agree with the dad when he mentions, like, the way the court runs things, it hasn't worked for African Americans. It haven't worked for minorities historically. It's a fact. There's a scene where a Hispanic cop says that blacks make it hard to empathize with them. A lot of people watching this video might not agree with my statement here, in my opinion, but to an extent, I agree with the officer. And I agree with him in the sense to where, yeah, at the end of the day, forget what people think about you. As long as you know who you are, that's all that matters. But I think we all subconsciously don't want to be looked at bad or negatively or like nothing. And so I think sometimes a lot of the self-infliction that is seen in poverty-stricken neighborhoods, African-American communities, minority communities, when you see a lot of self-inflicted wounds, it makes it hard for the world to care if you get a wound and it's not self-inflicted. Like, okay, it's 100 cuts on his body, but this 101 cut came from somebody else, and it's like, oh no, stop the world. So I think that's what he meant, that we as African Americans have to view ourselves as the kings and queens that we are. and hold ourselves accountable. And until we do that, we can never be able to truly say, forget what others say. Because until we do that, we're just steady giving them ammo to say negative things. And that's just my opinion. The cop says that a lot of the problems that black people have to address starts with them. I don't know, 50-50, maybe at this point. My mind might change at a later date, but right now I feel like it's 50-50. Yeah, blacks have to look in the mirror, African Americans have to look in the mirror and exercise self-accountability. We all do, as I just mentioned. But a lot of things, another 50% of that is things that is out of African Americans' control. You know, African American babies can't combat systematic injustices. They can't combat inadequate resources. They can't combat poorly funded education systems. They can't combat a lot of things that are products and results of systematic racism and biases and prejudices. So it's 50-50. Okay, big spoiler alert. The officer finally admits that he profiled Lincoln and KJ. He states that he's seen them pass by and wondered why are these people in this prestigious neighborhood, and pulled them over. And that's unfortunate because based on that assumption and that subconscious profiling of a people based on the color of their skin, it led to somebody losing their life. And even though this is a fictional movie, it's very much real. It's very much present and happening and occurring. And it's unfortunate and it's sad. The officer kind of shoots himself in the foot theoretically, because even after he admitted that he profiled them, he justifies his actions by saying that people want to be safe, so in order for people to be safe, we have to pull people over. We have to do investigations. We have to look when we feel there are suspicions, because that's how we find criminals and things of that nature. I agree. You have to do your job as an officer to fight crime. You can't clock in and not do anything. You have to clock in and put in work to reduce crime and to intimidate criminals and to keep communities feeling safe. I agree. But at the same time, it does not mean that you biasly and prejudiciously combat crime based on racism, based on misunderstanding of color, based on a disconnect. That is not justified. So an argument breaks out, a little scuffle breaks out, and a young guy, one of the inmates, gets into it with an older white cop, and as they're tussling over a gun. The gun goes off and it hits an old man. And to me, I may be doing too much, but to me this scene was very symbolic to me, because once again it showed a clash between generational and millennial and traditional and old school. And as a result of that clash, an innocent person got shot. And I think that's very much the case today. You know, it's a disconnect between morals and traditions and foundations that 90s babies and earlier grew up on, and the millennials. And we have to find a connect, because both sides can benefit. So we just have to find a connect. But the innocent person getting shot in that scuffle was just symbolic to me in that sense. There was a point in the movie where the officer who shot KJ mentioned that after he shot KJ, he reported it in. He was told to go home and just wait till his sergeant came by or whatever for questioning. But on the flip side of that, if a person shoots somebody, a regular civilian shoots somebody, they are supposed to stay there until they make a statement, or either go with the police down to the department and make a statement. So even that little difference, people don't understand. By you allowing an officer to go home, go back with his wife, his kids, and around comfortability, you make it easier for him to begin to develop his alibi, as opposed to somebody who shoots somebody, police pull up, okay, come on with your statement, and the pressure is applied. A lot of things are said out of pressure. So it's a big difference. And even that, I understand how important officers are, but are you greater than the next civilian? Because if that's the case, a mass murderer who's never been caught can go and apply for a position as an officer, become an officer, and continue to kill people and never be looked at because he's an officer. Like, it just has to be some type of evaluation and checks and balances and self-accountability. The jury votes. They find the officer guilty. The jury was the inmates, a guy who was recording, some of the staff from the police department, and they found the officer guilty. There's a scene where the young guy in the movie says that, yes, if we have to go out here and give him a guilty verdict and watch this man get killed so that other officers and people across the world will see how tired and angry people are, then it's worth it. And it's sad to say, but I agree. If that was me, if I was the father, even if I wasn't the father, okay, if I wasn't the father, if I was the young boy who was recording the whole movie, if I was him or if I was the dad, let's say, we just talking, let's say officer killed one of my children, then yes, if I gotta go out here and kill this officer, but it's gonna cause officers across the country to think twice, then by going out here and killing this officer for what he did to one of my babies, I might have saved my other baby from the next officer. person. So for the greater good in that sense, I definitely understood the jury and the young boy when he said that as they were coming up with their verdict. There was a scene where Ghost, like I said, as I'm calling him, Ghost was coughing. He had cancer in the movie. He was coughing up blood, and behind him was an American flag. And to me, that scene was symbolic. If anybody who watches this video knows Spike Lee or anybody on the team personally, ask them, because I really want to know. I feel like that was symbolic. I feel like it represented a sick country, a deteriorating country to me, even though it was just him coughing up blood from his cancer, and he just happened to be sitting in front of an American flag. I feel like that was a symbolic scene. I feel like that was shot purposely to represent a very sick country, which is evident. Just cut on the news for the past however many decades. Just cut on the news. And the last note that I wrote down was where the dad told the young boy who was recording him the whole movie that the purpose of you being here was I wanted the world to see. He wanted the world to see his pain, his anger, his hurt. He wanted the world to see the disconnect between races, between young and old, between civilian and cop, and he did that. It was a very powerful movie. It's definitely one of those movies that I think I'm going to end up most likely buying. So I appreciate y'all for rocking with me this far. This has been the second official episode of Real Raw Reviews featuring American Skin. Please share this video with your family and friends who you know who've seen it, and get in the comment section and tell me some of your thoughts and opinions about the movie and some of your notes you might have mentally took down as you watched the movie. Let me know in the comment section what movie y'all would like for me to do next, or tell me about some good movies that you all think I should check out. I appreciate y'all rocking with me. Hit that red subscribe button before you check out of here, and we'll see y'all next time. It's your boy C. Jones. Is all you tell them bye?
Bye.
Bye. Say see y'all later.
See you later.
Okay. Bye bye y'all. Y'all be blessed.